The hall reeked of perfume and fear. Gold torches lined the stone walls, their flames bending under the draft of hundreds of breaths. Laughter rang sharp as glass, cruel and unkind, as Omegas shuffled forward to be judged like livestock. Their eyes stayed low, their hands trembling. The moon choosing had always been a spectacle of power. Alpha heirs watching, Omegas shamed. Tonight was no different. I sat on the throne of black iron, spine straight, face carved from stone. Authority. That was all they needed to see. Not the tremor in my chest, not the wolf pacing inside me, snarling against my ribs. Another one, Camden muttered at my side, voice dripping with mockery. Pathetic, isn't it? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because if I opened my mouth, my wolf's growl might slip free. I forced my fingers to curl around the armrest instead, knuckles whitening. They couldn't know. The council, the heirs, the packs. They couldn't see the cracks. A king who faltered was no king at all. My gaze skimmed the crowd. Omegas stumbled, tripping over hems of worn dresses, each one met with jeers. Too small, someone called. Too weak. Another snickered. Who would want that? I felt nothing. Detached. This parade had always been meaningless, a reminder of hierarchy. Yet tonight, the air pressed heavier, my skin pulled tighter, as though the moon itself crouched low above us, watching. And then, a shove. A girl stumbled into the circle, small frame, dark hair loose, eyes flashing with startled defiance even as she wavered on unsteady feet. The hall erupted in cruel laughter, sharper, louder. But my wolf, my cursed, restless wolf, went still. Then it roared. My breath caught. Heat ripped down my spine, claws of recognition sinking deep. The sound in my chest wasn't a growl. It was a howl. I gripped the throne harder, fighting it back, but my pulse thundered. My control thinned to a knife's edge. Her. The word pounded through me, not in thought but in instinct. My wolf knew her, claimed her. I rose halfway before I could stop myself. Silence cracked the laughter. Every eye turned toward me. The girl froze, fear and fire both flickering in her gaze. And my wolf whispered, savage and certain, "Mate." The drums began, low, relentless. A rhythm meant for celebration, but in my ears it was a war march. She stood in the circle, the Omega they had shoved forward like a sacrificial lamb. Her shoulders were stiff, chin trembling as the crowd shouted for her to dance, their jeers twisted around her like chains. "Dance, little shadow," someone barked. Her feet moved hesitantly, one step, then another. Not graceful, not polished. Every stumble drew more laughter, louder, uglier. The room smelled of cruelty thick as smoke. My wolf raked its claws against my chest, demanding release. The sound inside me was primal, brutal. Not anger for her weakness, anger for my loss of control. I leaned forward, jaw tight. No, this wasn't possible. An Omega? My fate? My salvation? Ridiculous. Fate had betrayed me before, and I would not let it bind me again. "She's pitiful," Camden muttered with a smirk. "Not even worth the dirt under our boots." My hand twitched. I wanted to crush his throat for daring to speak, but I forced my fingers still. The hall must not see me falter. I tried to look away, to fix my gaze on anything but her. The banners, the torches, the sneering faces. Yet my eyes dragged back against my will, back to her. Her hair clung to her temples, damp with sweat under the heat of so many eyes. Her lips parted, breath shallow. She moved, unsteady, but still she moved, fragile and furious. And my wolf howled. The sound ripped through my skull, vibrating bone and blood. A single word echoed, low and savage, shaking every wall I had built. "Mate." I gritted my teeth. No, not this, not her. The bond was madness, a curse. If I accepted it, I risked everything. My throne, my kingdom, my control. But denial was ash on my tongue, because every beat of the drum synced with her heartbeat, and every heartbeat pulled me closer to ruin. I dug my nails into my palm until I bled, whispering in silence, "She cannot be mine." Yet my wolf only roared louder, "Mate." Enough! The word thundered out of me before I realized I'd spoken it. My voice rolled through the chamber, deep and edged with command, shaking the torches in their brackets. The music died. The laughter cut short. Silence spread like frost across the hall. Hundreds of eyes turned toward me, counselors stiffening, alphas narrowing their gazes, omegas bowing low in confusion. Even Camden flinched, his smirk faltering. And she froze in the circle. Amaris. Her breath caught, her body still trembling, yet her gaze lifted for the first time. Dark eyes found mine, wide with fear, but there was something else beneath it. A flicker of defiance. A spark that steadied the chaos inside me. My wolf surged against my skin, claws scraping, teeth bared. I fought to hold it back, but it pressed harder than ever, desperate to reach her. My ribs strained as though they would break open. I clenched my fists, forced my face into the mask of authority. I could not let them see the fracture beneath. They must see a king, untouchable, merciless, not a man undone by a single Omega's trembling step. Gasps whispered around the hall, rippling like wind through dry grass. Words followed in low, poisonous voices. He stopped the choosing. Why for her? The king silenced us? For an Omega? My counsel shifted uneasily. They knew what it meant when a wolf stirred at another's presence. They knew, and so did I. Mate. The word echoed again. Not from lips, but from the beast inside me. Savage. Certain. Irrefutable. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. My heart pounded so loudly I feared they would hear it. For years I had ruled with fear and iron, convinced weakness would destroy me. And yet, just standing there, her gaze steady on mine, my wolf calmed. My rage eased, my breath steadied. Not by command, not by control, but by her. And that terrified me more than madness ever had. At the edges of the chamber, whispers turned sharper, hungrier. The king has chosen, one voice hissed, an Omega. The silence didn't last. Impossible, a counselor snapped, rising to his feet, robe flaring. A king cannot lower himself to an Omega. Reject her, another barked. End this mockery before the Pax revolt. The hall exploded with voices, sharp, furious, spitting like fire. My counsel pounded their fists, heirs shouted in outrage. The word Omega echoed again and again, dripping with disgust. I sat rigid, jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. My wolf raged beneath my skin, claws raking, a snarl swelling in my chest. I could barely contain it. And then my gaze cut back to her. Amaris. She stood trembling, shoulders shaking as the weight of the hall's hatred pressed down on her. Yet when her eyes flicked toward me just for a heartbeat, I saw it. A flicker behind the fear. Not relief. Not defiance. Something softer, secret, buried so deep I almost doubted it. Gladness. My wolf stilled at once, breath leveling, fury softening into something dangerous. Desire, possession, a need so primal it terrified me. Reject her, my king, one elder roared, his voice echoing through the hall. Do it now, or you doom us all. I rose slowly. The scrape of my chair against the stone floor hushed every voice. My wolf pressed against my skin, begging to be released. My kingdom demanded I sever the bond. But I knew, if I let her go, the beast inside me would consume me whole. War outside, madness within. There was no safe path. I stepped forward, each stride measured, heavy, echoing in the stunned silence. I stopped at the edge of the circle, my gaze locked on her trembling form. Her scent curled around me, wild, fragile, intoxicating, and my wolf growled one word, savage and absolute. Mate. I turned back to the council, my voice cutting like steel. She is under my protection. From this moment, she will be taken to the fortress. Gasps shattered the silence. Fear spread like smoke. I didn't look at them. My eyes stayed on her, because fate had spoken, and there was no turning back. The fortress gates groaned open as I rode through, the night air sharp with pine and steel. Behind me, the guards ushered Amaris from the carriage. She moved carefully, her gaze darting from the looming stone towers to the armored sentries watching her every step. I dismounted slowly, forcing my face into its usual mask, cold, unreadable. The beast inside me strained against the act, snarling for me to draw her close, to breathe her in. But I wouldn't. Not yet. The great hall echoed with our arrival, torches casting long shadows across carved wolves on the walls. She paused at the threshold, her hands trembling slightly at her sides. I caught the flicker of awe in her eyes before she lowered her gaze again. "Bring her," I ordered, my voice carrying like steel through the chamber. The guards flinched at the sound, moving quickly to guide her forward. Every step she took seemed to echo in my bones. My wolf calmed with her nearness, steadying in a way discipline never had. That steadiness terrified me. We stopped at the stairwell. I turned at last to face her fully. She was pale, still shaken, but there was a quiet resolve in the way she held herself. Not entirely broken despite their laughter, despite mine. "You'll stay here," I said, my tone clipped, final. "Not in my chamber, in the east wing. Guards will stand watch." Her eyes lifted to mine then, dark, searching, almost questioning. For a heartbeat, I saw something buried deep within her expression. Relief. Maybe even a fragile gladness that I had not cast her aside. The sight split me open. I looked away sharply, forcing distance. "You'll be safe, but you'll remain apart, until I decide otherwise." The words rang hollow even to me. Because my wolf howled at the separation, clawing at my chest, begging to tear down the walls I had just built. But I had to. For her sake. For mine. For the kingdom that would never accept what fate had dared to give me. As she was led toward the east wing, I stayed rooted in place, fists clenched, fighting the truth that echoed like a curse inside me. My chamber was empty, but the silence was suffocating. I braced my palms against the table, breath sawing through my teeth, trying to steady the storm clawing inside my chest. My wolf had never been this loud, this insistent, this hungry. Every thought, every pulse of blood in my veins dragged me back to her. Amaris. I slammed my fist against the wood. The crack splintered through the quiet, but it wasn't enough to drown the memory rising in me. A night long ago. Moonless. Silent. I was just a boy, standing in the corner while my father's wolf tore the world apart. My mother's scream, high, broken, still rang in my ears. Blood slicked the stone floor, warm under my bare feet. My father's madness had swallowed him whole, and the price was her life. That night, I swore I would never allow love close enough to break me. Love was weakness. Love was death. And now fate had the audacity to bind me to an Omega, a trembling girl mocked by all. No, I would not yield to it. I could not. "Control," I muttered, forcing the word between clenched teeth. My kingdom survived because I was iron, because I never bent, never wavered. That discipline was all that kept the beast from breaking free. But the truth was cruel. Every moment away from her, my wolf tore at the bars of my control, frantic, wild, desperate. Every second without her was agony. I dragged my hands down my face, rage boiling in my veins, denial roaring louder than the drums had. She cannot be mine. She cannot be my salvation. She will destroy me the way my mother destroyed him. The words spun like a curse in my head, but deep beneath the anger, grief stirred. Grief I had buried for years. My mother's face, soft and kind, fading beneath my father's claws. The boy I had been, afraid, alone, swearing never to feel, looked back at me from the shadows. And in the silence that followed, my wolf spoke. Low, rough, certain. She is the only thing keeping us whole. The sound of it chilled me, because I knew it was true. Her chamber was dim, lit only by a single torch on the far wall. Shadows stretched across the stone, long and jagged, like claws reaching for her. She sat on the edge of the bed, small and still, hands knotted in her lap. A bruise marked her cheek, faint but cruel, the proof of how she had been shoved before the court. For a moment, I only stood in the doorway. My chest tightened, my wolf thrashing, snarling, until her eyes lifted to mine. And just like that, silence. The beast inside me stilled completely, breath steady, claws sheathed. The pounding in my skull eased. My entire body, always at war, slid into a peace so deep it terrified me. I stepped inside slowly, the door closing with a heavy thud behind me. The sound made her flinch, my jaw clenched. I wanted to kill the ones who had dared lay hands on her, but rage was a dangerous indulgence. "You're safe here," I said at last, my voice low, rough. "No one will touch you again." She didn't answer, only watched me, silent, wary, like a bird waiting for the hawk's strike. I forced myself to look away, to find distance in the carved stone walls. Every second near her was a battle. My wolf whispered mine with every breath, pressing harder, stronger. This was dangerous, more dangerous than any blade or rebellion. She could unravel me without trying. "I'll have the healers bring salve for your bruises," I added, tone clipped, trying to reclaim control. Still nothing from her. Just those dark eyes holding mine, unblinking, steady. And in that silence, I knew the truth. I could not reject her. Not now, not ever. My wolf had already chosen. Fate had already bound us. I turned sharply, retreating to the door before the calm she gave me drowned me whole. But I paused with my hand on the latch, words rising in my throat before I could stop them. Later, when the council gathered, their protests filling the chamber with fire and venom, I let those words free at last. "She is mine." Gasps ripped through the hall. And I knew I had just set the world ablaze. The fortress had always been mine alone. Stone walls, iron gates, silence broken only by the clash of steel in the training yard. Now, it felt different. Her presence threaded through every corridor. Amaris walked like a shadow, soft steps across flagstone, head bowed when guards passed. She spoke little, barely at all, but I knew she was there. I felt it in the way my wolf stilled whenever she crossed the hall. I felt it in the strange calm that seeped into me whenever her scent lingered in the air. I told myself I didn't watch her, yet my gaze always found her. In the courtyard where she traced her fingers along the garden wall, as if memorizing each stone. In the library, where she stood hesitant before shelves as if the books might bite. Even at the evening meal where she took her place far down the table, small and quiet. Yet my eyes never strayed from her too long. Distance was my command. Desire was my ruin. Still, my wolf clawed at me with each step she took away. "Control," I whispered to myself each night. But control faltered when her presence filled the air. One evening, I lingered at the archway as she crossed the hall, her braid slipping loose against her back. The torchlight painted her face gold. She didn't see me, yet still my wolf calmed, my pulse slowing as if her very existence steadied my fractured soul. That peace was more terrifying than any blade. If she could quiet the beast, she could also destroy me. The scrape of boots tore me from the thought. Counselors entered, their robes sweeping the floor, their faces tight with fear. "My king," one said, voice strained. "Rebellion stirs in the border packs. Camden speaks loudly. Too loudly. They call your claim a disgrace." The words should have slid off me like rain. Instead, they burned. Because rebellion was not just against the throne now, it was against her, against the bond, against fate itself. And though I tried to bury it, I knew one truth. I could not let them touch her, even if it meant war. Steel rang against steel, the sound echoing across the training yard like thunder. I moved with precision, each strike calculated, each step honed from years of discipline. Around me, my warriors circled, waiting for their turn to test the king. Control, that was all I had left. My sword met another, sparks flashing. I pressed forward, ruthless, unyielding. Sweat burned my eyes, but I welcomed the sting. Pain was an anchor. Then I felt it, the shift in the air, the faint scent of wildflowers. My wolf stilled instantly. My chest loosened, my blade slowed. I didn't need to look, but I did anyway. At the far archway, Amaris stood silent, her hands clasped before her, gaze fixed on me. No words, no smile, just watching. And the beast inside me, the same creature I fought every day, settled like a hound at her feet. My grip faltered. For one heartbeat, my opponent slipped past my guard. Steel kissed my shoulder, shallow but real. Gasps rippled through the yard. Rage flared hot in my chest, not at the wound, but at myself, at her, at the weakness she drew out of me without lifting a finger. I roared and surged forward, striking harder, faster. My blade crashed against his with brutal force, each swing heavier, more violent, until the final blow cracked against his ribs. He fell to the ground, gasping in pain, clutching his side as the circle erupted in shock. I stood above him, chest heaving, the taste of iron in my mouth. The yard had fallen silent, but not for respect, for fear, for doubt. I forced my blade down, swallowing the shame burning through me. I had proven strength, but not control. And the truth gnawed at me. I faltered the moment her eyes found mine. As I turned away, I heard it, a whisper sliding like poison through the ranks. The king bends before a servant girl. My wolf snarled, but the words cut deeper than steel. The council hall smelled of incense and politics. Smoke curled from bronze braziers meant to mask the stench of fear, but I caught it anyway. The room pulsed with unease. Rebellion already whispered in these walls. Camden stood at the center, broad-shouldered, arrogant as ever. His smirk was a blade drawn just for me. He bowed low enough to feign respect, but not low enough to forget his ambition. His eyes, sharp and mocking, flicked past me to where Amaris stood behind the guards. "Tell me, my king," Camden drawled, voice carrying for all to hear. "Is it true? You chose an Omega as Luna?" He chuckled, a sound that grated bone deep. "No, not even chose. Your wolf chose for you." How fitting. Laughter rippled through a few of his allies, brittle and poisonous. I said nothing at first. Silence was my weapon. But my wolf stirred, low and restless. Camden tilted his head toward Amaris, letting his words cut. "Do the packs know she's barren? That Omegas cannot carry heirs? That you'd throw away your throne for a womb as empty as her rank?" The hall gasped. I moved before thought caught me. 1 second I was seated, the next I had Camden by the throat. His back slammed against the stone pillar. The impact cracked through the chamber, dust raining from the ceiling. "You will not speak of her," I snarled, voice torn between man and wolf. Camden coughed, lips curling into a bloody grin. "So it's true," he rasped. "The mighty king undone by a servant girl." Red mist clouded my vision. My wolf surged, claws threatening to tear free, demanding I finish him here, now. I squeezed harder. The pulse beneath my grip faltered, his face darkening. 1 more second and his neck would snap. "Weston!" one of the counselors shouted, panic rising. "Release him!" But I couldn't. Not when Camden's words hung in the air like rot. Not when he had dared reduce her to nothing. Not when she stood there trembling, forced to hear herself mocked. I tightened my grip. My teeth ached as if my fangs were already breaking through. Camden's heels scraped against the pillar, his eyes bulging. The hall erupted in chaos, guards rushing forward, voices shouting. Then, a sound. Not a scream, not a command, just a breath. Her breath. Amaris's gaze caught mine across the hall, wide and dark, not pleading, not condemning. Steady. And my wolf, for all its rage, stilled in that instant. I let Camden drop. He crumpled to the floor, clutching his throat, hacking for air. The hall was silent, every soul frozen, waiting. Camden rose slowly, bruised, broken, yet still smiling that poisonous smile. "You've shown your hand," he rasped, voice rough but dripping venom. "The king defends an Omega with his life." He spat blood to the floor. "I will take your throne, and her." The words slithered through the chamber, sealing the vow. And in that moment, I knew rebellion no longer whispered. It had found its face. The borderlands burned. Smoke rolled thick across the night sky, drowning the moon in a haze of ash. Wolves clashed in the fields below, claws ripping, steel flashing. The rebellion Camden had promised was no longer whispers in council halls. It was fire and blood at my doorstep. I rode through the chaos, armor slick with sweat and grime, sword raised high. My wolf strained against me, half mad with the thrill of battle. Every cry of pain, every splash of blood drove it wilder. And yet, beneath the roar of combat, its rhythm faltered. My strikes grew sloppy, my vision blurred, as though the beast inside me was pulling away. Not now. Not here. I tore through an enemy alpha, blade cutting shoulder to hip, but my chest burned, my breath short and ragged. The wolf inside me keened, restless, dangerously close to slipping its leash. A rebel lunged. I met his eyes, gold against gold, and for one split second I felt the tremor, my wolf buckling, unstable. My guard dropped. His blade arced toward my throat, and then her scent. Wildflowers and rain carried on the wind as if the storm itself had breathed her into me. But it wasn't just scent. It was her. A sudden pull in my chest, sharp and undeniable. A thread of silver fire burned between us, the mate bond thrumming alive. My wolf steadied. My pulse fell into rhythm. My hand shot up, catching the rebel's wrist before the steel could bite. I twisted, bone cracked, and he fell screaming at my feet. The calm wasn't mine. It was hers, her heartbeat echoing through the bond, anchoring me across the distance. And in that same instant, I felt it twist. Falter. Something was wrong. I lifted my face to the night sky, the battlefield noise crashing like waves around me, and admitted a truth I had tried to bury. I could not survive this war, or myself, without her. My men rallied at my side, emboldened by my renewed ferocity, driving the rebels back into the trees. The ground ran red, the cries of the wounded echoing in the smoke. Victory surged through my veins, but it was hollow, because beneath the triumph I felt her through the bond, faint, wavering, slipping, and far from the battlefield within the fortress walls, fate answered. Amaris collapsed, her body shuddering as a dormant power stirred awake, ancient and untamed. And I knew it because I felt her break. The fortress library stank of dust and age, its shelves lined with records few dared disturb. I had come back for her. The council clustered around a table littered with scrolls, their whispers sharp as knives. "She collapsed," one muttered, eyes narrowed toward me. It cannot be coincidence. I ignored them, my gaze fixed on the open parchment before me. The script was old, ink faded, yet the words seared into my mind as though carved in fire. The first Luna bore the blood of the moon herself, her descendants marked by frailty to mask their strength, hidden, waiting. My chest tightened. My wolf prowled restlessly, not with rage but with recognition. Amaris's trembling, her humiliation, her silence. None of it had been weakness. It had been concealment, protection, a bloodline buried beneath centuries of fear. She carries it, I whispered, the truth striking like lightning. The blood of the first Luna. Gasps stirred the council. Some muttered prayers. Others pressed back in alarm. One elder sneered. Blasphemy! That line was broken. I slammed my fist onto the table, the wood groaning under the force. No, it lives, and it is in her. For the first time since fate had cursed me with the bond, hope surged hot through my veins. She was not the weakness they mocked. She was power, power enough to steady my wolf, power enough to unite packs splintered by greed. Perhaps fate had not betrayed me after all. Perhaps it had chosen her to save us. The thought shook me more than any blade ever had. And then, laughter. Low, cruel, echoing against stone. Camden stepped from the shadows, his smile sharp as broken glass. How convenient, he said, voice dripping with venom. The King's Omega suddenly transformed into a goddess of old. Tell me, do you believe it? Or are you so desperate to justify your lust that you'll twist prophecy to fit her skin? I bared my teeth, my wolf rising, but Camden only spread his hands in mock innocence. Let the packs hear it then, he purred, that you've hidden a cursed bloodline under your roof, that you'd crown the end of us all. His words slithered into the silence, a poison already spreading. And I knew, the war for her had only just begun. The council chamber reeked of fear and incense. Torches guttered as the elders' voices rose, sharp and relentless. You have endangered us all, one spat, robes quivering. A cursed bloodline in the fortress? An Omega who dares claim the throne? Another slammed his staff to the stone. If you will not reject her, then you are unfit to rule. We will depose you. The words struck harder than any blade. My chest burned. My wolf surged, claws raking at my insides, fury spilling into my veins. Depose me? My voice shook the walls. My wolf tore free, half-shift burning through me, fur bristling, fangs bared, eyes blazing gold. The elders shrieked and stumbled back, their fear feeding the storm inside me. I lost myself to it. Rage consumed reason. My wolf howled, ready to rip, to tear, to drown this hall in blood. And then, a touch. Soft. Barely there. Yet it cut through the frenzy like the first breath after drowning. Amorous. Her hand pressed against my arm, trembling but steady enough to reach what no chain, no command, no oath ever had. My wolf stilled. The fire inside me bent, softened, obeyed. For the first time in my cursed life, I shifted back without agony. The beast slid into silence. The man returned, my breath harsh but whole. No broken bones, no torn flesh, no madness. Just peace. I stared at her, stunned. Her dark eyes held mine, wide and steady, as though she had known all along what I had refused to admit. Without her, I was nothing. The council whispered in horror, some crossing themselves, others retreating toward the shadows. But I heard none of it. My gaze never left her. The truth carved itself into my soul. She wasn't my weakness. She was the only strength I had left. A horn sounded in the distance, deep and foreboding. One of the guards burst into the hall, panting. My king, the blood moon approaches. Camden gathers armies at the northern border. The chamber fell into silence, but I felt only the bond thrumming between us. My war was no longer for a crown. It was for her. And I would burn the world before I let Camden touch her. The training yard was quiet at dawn, mist curling low across the stones. Only she and I stood there, blades glinting in pale light. Amaris gripped her sword awkwardly, knuckles white, shoulders tight with uncertainty. Again, I said, circling her. My voice was harder than I meant, but if she was to survive what was coming, softness would kill her. She swung, too slow. I caught the blade with mine, twisting until it clattered from her hand. Her lips pressed tight, frustration sparking in her eyes. "Strength isn't in muscle," I told her, stepping closer, placing the hilt back in her palm. "It's in refusing to break, even when the world tells you you already have." Her gaze lifted to mine, dark and fierce despite her trembling. "Then stop treating me like glass." The words cut, because she was right, and because every part of me wanted to shield her from even the scrape of a blade. We fought until her knuckles bled, until her breath came in ragged bursts. And still she stood, chest heaving, sword raised again. "Good," I murmured, too close now, my hand steadying hers. The scent of her, wildflowers and rain, wrapped around me, weakening the walls I'd built. Her lips parted, her breath brushing mine. I should have pulled away. I didn't. The kiss was stolen, sharp and desperate, tasting of blood and hunger and something I'd never admit aloud: need. My wolf surged in approval, a growl humming low in my chest as her fingers curled in my tunic. When we broke apart, silence stretched between us, thick with confessions neither of us dared voice. "You are not weak," I said, my thumb brushing the bruise on her knuckle. "You never were." Her eyes softened, and for the first time I let myself believe it. She wasn't only my mate, she was my salvation. The moment shattered when the spy burst into the yard, cloak torn, breath ragged. "My king," he gasped, falling to one knee. "Camden plans to strike on the blood moon. His goal is not your throne, it is her." The sword slipped from Amaris's hand, and I knew the war had narrowed to a single truth: protect her or lose everything. The night was split by fire and steel. My warriors moved like shadows through the rebel camp, striking swift and brutal. Camden's men never saw us coming. We cut their supply wagons down, shattered their formation, and left their banners burning in the mud. Victory was ours, or so I thought. The rush of battle filled me, a bitter taste of triumph. Every rebel that fell beneath my blade felt like proof that I could outpace fate, that I could crush Camden before his poison spread too far. I rode back through the fortress gates with my men cheering, the sound echoing off the stone like thunder. But the celebration died with the dawn. The reports came in waves, messengers stumbling through the gates, faces pale, voices broken. Camden had retaliated. Villages loyal to me lay in ashes, mothers and children slaughtered, crops burned, homes gutted by flame. For every rebel corpse I'd left in the dirt, a dozen innocents now lay buried in charred earth. Rage tore through me, raw and blinding. I slammed my fist into the war table, splintering wood. "He hides behind civilians," I snarled. "He calls himself Alpha, yet slaughters those who cannot fight back." My generals bowed their heads, none daring to answer. Because they knew the truth, I had drawn first blood. And Camden's cruelty would only escalate with each move I made. The victory that had burned so bright hours ago turned to ash in my mouth. That night, I stood alone on the battlements, staring out over the darkened horizon. The wolf inside me writhed, keening with grief and fury, claws raking against the fragile walls of control I still held. My chest ached, breaths jagged, visions swimming. And then she was there. Amaris. Silent as moonlight, her hand finding mine as though it had always belonged there. My wolf surged, wild and breaking, but her touch slowed it, anchored it. "I saw the smoke," she whispered, voice trembling. "I felt it through you." Her words cut deeper than any blade. Because it was true. Our bond had grown so strong she carried the weight of my war, the stain of my sins. I wanted to push her away, to shield her from the ruin I dragged in my wake. But I couldn't. My wolf wouldn't let me. The fury inside me cracked. My knees nearly buckled as I pulled her against me, burying my face in her hair. The scent of wildflowers and rain steadied the chaos, but shame seared me all the same. My strength costs too much, I rasped. Every victory breeds greater loss. How long before Camden takes everything? Her arms tightened around me, fragile yet unyielding. "You are not alone anymore," she said, soft but fierce. If fate gave me to you, then let me carry this too. The wolf whimpered, then stilled. For the first time in days, I breathed without fire in my chest. Yet I knew peace could not last. The blood moon loomed, and Camden would stop at nothing to claim her. The fortress was quiet, the fires dimmed to embers. For the first time in weeks, there was no shouting, no clash of steel, no messengers rushing with news of loss. Only her, Amaris, in my chamber, the flicker of candlelight gilding her skin in gold. I should have sent her away. Instead, I pulled her closer. Her breath caught as my lips traced the curve of her throat, her fingers tangling in my hair. It wasn't just hunger that drove me. It was the need to feel alive, to feel hers. Every kiss, every touch, every shiver between us was a reminder that in this bloody war, there was still something worth holding on to. When our bodies finally stilled, tangled in sheets damp with heat and sweat, silence pressed in. Her head rested against my chest, her heartbeat steady where mine thundered. And for once, I didn't hide from the storm inside me. My father lost himself, I whispered, the words tasting like poison. On a moonless night, his wolf broke free. He tore my mother apart while I watched. I swore I'd never be him. But every time the darkness takes me, I feel him in my bones. Her fingers brushed the scar along my ribs, soft, grounding. You are not him, she said. You never will be, because you fight it, because you still love. I closed my eyes, swallowing hard. No one had ever dared say that to me. Love, tied to my name. My wolf keened low, pressing against me not with violence but with a need as raw as my own. I turned to her, cupping her face. If I lose you, Amaris, if fate dares take you from me, I will burn kingdoms. I will tear gods from the sky. My voice broke, but the vow was carved into stone all the same. Her lips brushed mine, soft and sure. Then don't lose me. The words echoed long after the candles guttered out. But outside the fortress, the night shifted. A howl carried on the wind, deep and unearthly, and my wolf stiffened. I rose, staring through the window as the horizon bled red. The blood moon had risen. The fortress walls shook with the force of the first impact. I heard the horns before the gates splintered, the deep, guttural roar of Camden's army announcing itself beneath the blood moon. The sky was crimson, clouds torn wide, painting the world in the shade of slaughter. Steel clashed, wolves howled, fire burned. My men surged to meet the rebels, loyal to their king, their howls rolling like thunder across the night. I was already in motion, sword in hand, my wolf thrumming inside me with savage hunger. I tore through the first line, blade carving flesh, claws ripping when steel faltered. Camden's rebels fell before me, but there were too many. Always too many. For every one I cut down, 2 more took his place. The hallways filled with screams, the corridors slick with blood. Still, I pressed forward, bellowing orders, refusing to let fear sink its teeth in. Because if I faltered, everything fell. And then, I saw him. Camden, draped in black steel, golden eyes blazing, cutting his way through my guard as if they were nothing. He moved with cruel precision. Each strike meant not for efficiency, but for spectacle. His men roared his name, their confidence swelling as if he were already king. "Weston!" His voice boomed across the chaos, mocking. "Let's see how long you last without your pretty Omega to calm you." Rage flared hot. My wolf howled, and I launched myself at him, blades sparking as we clashed. The impact rattled my bones. His strength was raw, fueled by ambition and hate, and for a moment we were evenly matched. Steel against steel, claw against claw, blood spraying the stones beneath us. I struck hard, forcing him back, sparks flying as our swords locked. My wolf surged, demanding Camden's throat, but even as I pressed, a tremor ripped through me. My chest tightened, vision blurring. Not now. Moon, damn it, not now! I staggered as the beast inside me tore sideways, splitting, unraveling, My claws snapped, half-formed, my teeth lengthening, then receding. Pain lanced through me, white-hot. My wolf howled inside my skull, not with fury, but with fracture. Camden saw it. He grinned, shoving me back with a brutal kick that slammed me into the wall. My blade slipped from numb fingers. "You're breaking," he sneered, advancing. "Just like your father." The words cut deeper than steel. Memories flooded, my father's madness, my mother's blood. My knees buckled, my wolf ripping at me from within, clawing for release but never fully forming. I was drowning in my own curse. A rebel lunged, blade arcing toward my throat. I should have blocked it, should have cut him down, but my arms refused me. And then, her voice. "Weston!" Amaris. She was at the far end of the hall, guards dragging her forward. Her eyes wide, her lips trembling, but her gaze fixed on me. And my wolf lurched, steadying for a single heartbeat at the sight of her. I surged up, cutting down the rebel with a snarl. I fought like a man possessed, blades and claws both tearing, every strike fueled by the need to reach her, to shield her. But Camden was faster. He cut across the hall, his men swarming between us. I slaughtered them, bodies falling, but my wolf faltered again, buckling under the blood moon's pull. Camden seized the opening. He lunged, slamming his fist into my ribs, bones cracking. I gasped, the taste of blood filling my mouth, and fell to my knees. His blade pressed to my throat. Behind him, 2 of his rebels dragged Amaris into the open. She fought, kicking, striking, her voice breaking as she screamed my name. "No!" I roared, straining against the weight pinning me. My wolf howled but would not rise. I was too broken, too splintered. Camden's laugh echoed through the carnage, cruel and victorious. He yanked Amaris close, his arm locking around her throat. "Your mate," he spat, eyes glittering with triumph. "Your weakness." He dragged her back, raising his voice for all to hear. "The king falls tonight, and his Luna is mine." My heart tore in two as the rebels surged around him, shielding his retreat. I struggled to rise, blood pouring down my chest, but my body betrayed me. My wolf, my strength, refused me. And through the haze of pain, I watched as Camden disappeared into the chaos, Amaris in his grip, her cries fading into the night. For the first time in my reign, I was powerless, and my world was gone with her. The hall stank of blood and smoke. I was on my knees, armor split, ribs screaming with every breath. The throne that once loomed above me felt a mockery now, empty, unreachable, meaningless. Around me, the council whispered, their voices sharp as knives. "He is broken. The curse has claimed him. He cannot even protect his mate." I let the words pierce me. I deserved them. My sword lay discarded, slick with rebel blood, yet it had not saved her. My wolf, once feared across every border, had shattered when I needed it most. And Amaris, my Amaris, was gone, torn from my grasp while I drowned in weakness. My hands curled against the stone. I saw them again, my father's hands, slick with my mother's blood. I had sworn as a boy, kneeling before her grave, that I would never allow love to break me, that I would never kneel to grief, never let the wolf inside twist me into a monster. And yet here I was, shattered, kneeling, broken because of love. I bowed my head, the weight of it crushing. Perhaps Camden was right. Perhaps I was unfit to rule. Perhaps the bond had doomed me, as it doomed my father before me. The council's words grew bolder, dripping with venom. He has lost the war. He cannot stand. The throne must be seized before all falls to ruin. I did not lift my head. I had nothing left to give them. And then, a whisper. So soft I thought it a trick of memory, a breath against the silence threading through my mind like silver light. Fight. I froze, breath stuttering. Again, firmer now. Weston. Fight. Her voice. Amaris. Not a memory, not a dream. The bond. My chest heaved, a tremor breaking through despair. She lived. She was calling to me, not with screams or tears, but with strength, with belief. My fingers dug into the stone floor. My wolf stirred, faint, ragged, but not gone. Not yet. I lifted my head, blood running down my jaw, and met the stares of the council with something I had not felt in hours. A spark. The fortress lay in ruin, its halls choked with smoke and silence. I stood alone in the courtyard where bodies still bled into the stones, sword heavy in my hand. The air was thick with the stench of iron and ash, the cries of the dying fading into memory. I could not save her. The thought cut deeper than any blade. Camden had taken Amaris beneath the blood moon, and my strength had faltered. My wolf howled in my skull, a sound of pure anguish tearing me apart from within. It clawed and raged, demanding her, but there was nothing I could give. Enough, I whispered into the emptiness, my voice hoarse. If fate means to strip me, let it finish the work. I sank to my knees, sword clattering against stone. My father's shadow rose before me. His madness, his bloodlust, the ruin he left in his wake. I had sworn never to walk his path. And yet here I was, fractured, hollow, closer to his fate than ever. Perhaps death was mercy. Perhaps it was the only way to end the curse before it consumed everything I loved. My wolf screamed again, a sound that shook my bones, desperate, furious, refusing surrender. Its pain was unbearable, but so was mine. For the first time, we were united in despair. I closed my eyes, waiting for the last shred of control to break, waiting for the madness to claim me. And then, light. Not in the sky, not in the world around me, inside. A spark flared across the bond, searing through my chest like fire. My breath caught. My wolf stilled, ears pricked, no longer howling but listening. Her voice came, soft and fierce all at once, threading through my mind. You are not broken. You are mine. And if you cannot rise alone, take my strength. Amaris. Her presence poured through me, warm and unyielding, wrapping around my shattered pieces like silk and steel. My despair cracked, replaced with something rawer, wilder, hope laced with fury. The bond pulsed, flaring brighter, her power flooding my veins until my wolf roared, not in agony, but in rebirth. I opened my eyes, no longer waiting for death. I would rise. For her. At first, it was a flicker, a spark in the dark. I staggered in the ruins of the courtyard, breath ragged, my wolf still trembling on the edge of collapse. The stone beneath my palms was slick with blood, the fortress walls cracked and broken. Around me, the air reeked of ash and despair. And then it came. A pulse, low and steady, throbbing in my chest that was not mine. It rippled through my veins, cool and sharp, threading through every fracture the blood moon had torn open. My wolf, once thrashing like a beast in chains, froze. Then it listened. Her. Amaris. I felt her through the bond, clearer than ever before. Not only her fear, not only her cry, but her power, wild, ancient, threaded with moonlight. It poured into me like water over parched earth. My claws steadied, my vision sharpened, the fire inside me no longer chaos but command. For the first time in my cursed life, my wolf bent without breaking. The madness did not consume me. It obeyed. Because she willed it. Because she believed I could. Do not fall, her voice whispered inside me, fierce and unyielding. You are mine, Weston, and I am yours. My throat burned, my knees steadied. A growl rumbled low in my chest, not broken, not fractured, but whole. I rose, shoulders straightening, the weight of despair stripped from me. Around me, the few remaining loyalists lifted their heads, their eyes flicking to me as though sensing the change. My king? One whispered, awe in his tone. I turned, my voice carrying like thunder through the shattered courtyard. We are not finished. They stilled, listening. I could feel their doubt, their fear, but I could also feel their need for hope. and I would give it to them. She steadies me, I said, my wolf thrumming with her power. As long as she breathes, I will not fall, and I will not rest until Camden's head is on these stones. A roar broke from the men, ragged but real, echoing against the walls. I raised my sword, feeling her pulse still steadying mine through the bond. The final stand had begun. The march to Camden's stronghold was not filled with noise. It was silence that carried us forward. No cheering, no battle songs, only the measured rhythm of boots and paws across the earth, steady as a war drum. I rode at the front, my sword strapped to my back, my wolf thrumming beneath my skin with a clarity I had never known. Once I had thought strength was born from walls of ice, from denying pain and love alike. But those walls had cracked, and through them she had come. Amaris, steadying me, claiming me, completing me. I was no longer fractured. I was whole. Every step closer to Camden's fortress, I felt her through the bond. Not just her fear, but her defiance. Her spirit shone like a star in the dark, a constant pull that sharpened my focus. Vulnerability had not broken me. It had anchored me. The gates of the stronghold loomed, black iron spiked against the sky, the stink of rebel wolves thick on the wind. My men shifted, nervous, their fear a pulse beneath the air. I raised my hand, halting them. Tonight, the blood moon rises, I said, voice low but carrying. And it will not crown Camden. It will not end with our ruin. It will mark the night we take back what is ours. She is mine. This kingdom is mine. And I will not fall. A growl rippled through the ranks. The doubt burned away by the fire in my chest. I drew my sword. The blade caught the crimson light spilling across the sky as the clouds tore open, and there it was, the blood moon, swollen and merciless, casting its glow over the battlefield. My wolf howled, but it was not madness. It was purpose. Calm spread through me, cold and sharp as steel. I was not rushing headlong into rage. I was walking into fate, guided by love, sharpened by loss, and steadied by her power. I looked at the fortress gates and saw not walls, but chains to be broken. Forward, I commanded, voice cutting like thunder. And as the first rebel horns answered, the blood moon bathed the earth in red. The stronghold's gates lay shattered behind me, the courtyard drenched in blood. My men clashed with Camden's wolves in a storm of steel and fury, but I saw none of it. My eyes fixed only on the dais at the far end of the hall. Amaris. She was bound to the pillar, wrists cut raw from the ropes, blood staining her torn dress. Her head lifted when I entered, her gaze finding mine as if no distance, no chains, no war could ever break the bond between us. My wolf surged, not with frenzy, but with steady, lethal focus. And there he was. Camden stepped from the shadows, blades gleaming crimson in the light of the blood moon pouring through the broken roof. His smile was cruel, his voice carrying across the chamber like venom. "You came crawling at last," he sneered. "Tell me, King, did you bring your weakness with you? Or did she drag you here by the throat?" I moved closer, every step a promise, every breath a vow. My grip tightened around my sword, the bond with Amaris pulsing through me like a drumbeat. Fear had no hold now. Doubt had no teeth. There was only her, only us. Camden twirled one blade lazily, the smirk never leaving his face. "Look at her," he mocked. "Bound, broken. This is the queen you would crown? The womb you'd trust with your throne?" My wolf snarled, the sound shaking the stones. I raised my sword, gaze locked on him, voice low but carrying like thunder. "You mocked her." I stepped onto the dais, the air thick with the scent of blood and smoke. Tonight, she is queen. Amaris's breath caught, her eyes shining through the pain. Camden's grin widened. "Then come claim her if you dare." The blood moon glared down, red light drenching us all, and in that instant, the world narrowed to three truths: her bound form, his blades, and the vow roaring through my chest. This ends tonight. The hall shook with Camden's laughter, low and venomous, blades gleaming in his hands. The blood moon poured through the broken roof above, drenching the stone in crimson light. Amaris stood bound behind him, her blood staining the ropes, her eyes fixed on me, not with fear but with unyielding fire. My wolf prowled inside me, steady, calm, no longer fractured. Her bond steadied me, her presence sharpening every edge, and when I stepped forward, sword raised, I knew. This fight was not mine alone. It was ours. Camden lunged first, fast as lightning, his twin blades slashing in a blur. Steel screamed as I caught the strike, the force rattling my bones. He pressed hard, driving me back across the dais, his grin savage. "You're slower than I remember, King," he spat, sparks flying with every clash. "We both know you wouldn't last without her. She makes you soft." I shoved him back, teeth bared. "No, she makes me whole." I surged forward, our blades colliding again and again, ringing like thunder. Camden struck low, I parried. He feinted high, I countered, sweat stinging my eyes, blood singing in my veins. My wolf fought with me, not against me, every movement sharpened by Amaris's steady heartbeat echoing through the bond. But Camden was strong, brutally strong. He ducked under my swing, driving his knee into my ribs. Pain exploded through me, his blade carved across my shoulder, hot blood spilling down my arm. He laughed, pressing the advantage. "Look at you bleed," he taunted. "I'll carve you open before she watches, then take her for my own." A snarl ripped from me, deeper than any man's voice, my wolf bursting through in flashes, fangs, claws, fury. I swung, driving him back step by step, the floor cracking beneath our weight. He twisted, striking from the side, but before his blade could find my throat, a flare of light. Amaris. The ropes binding her snapped, burned away by a silver glow pouring from her hands. Her eyes blazed with moonlight, her bloodline awakened in full. She stepped forward, power radiating from her, her voice carrying like a command across centuries. "You are not alone." Her strength surged through me, through the bond, blazing into my chest. My wolf roared, not in madness, but in triumph. My body flooded with her power, wounds knitting, strength doubling. Camden's sneer faltered. Together we struck. I slashed, my wolf's claws following, and the blow hurled Camden back across the hall. He crashed into the pillar, stone shattering. He rose, snarling, blood streaking his jaw. "No matter what she gives you, you'll always be cursed," he spat, charging again. This time I did not meet him alone. Amaris lifted her hands, silver fire spilling from her palms, weaving into my blade. When Camden's strike came, I caught it, twisted, and the fire seared across him, burning through armor, flesh, and pride. He roared, staggering, but I did not stop. Blow after blow, claw and blade, fury and love, until the fight was no longer even. My wolf howled, hers echoed, two voices merging as one. At last, I pinned him beneath me, my sword at his throat, Amaris's power flaring around us like a halo. Camden's eyes widened, the first flicker of fear breaking his arrogance. "You mocked her," I growled, my voice shaking the stones. "Tonight, she is queen." And with one final strike, steel and moonfire together, I ended him. Camden's scream tore through the hall, cut short as the blood moon swallowed him in shadow. His body crumpled, lifeless, his blades clattering uselessly to the floor. Silence fell. The hall stilled, the echoes of battle fading into nothing. My men stared, rebels scattered, every eye fixed on us, on the king and his mate, bathed in crimson light and silver fire. I turned to Amaris, her chest heaving, her glow dimming but her gaze steady. My wolf bowed to her not as weakness but as destiny. The war was over. The king had won. The clang of steel faded into silence. One by one, weapons fell from rebel hands, striking the stone with hollow finality. Wolves shifted back to men, heads bowed, their defiance burned away by blood and moonfire. The fortress that had trembled under Camden's roar now stood still beneath mine, but I saw only her. Amaris swayed where she stood, her glow flickering like the last light of a dying star. I crossed the hall in 3 strides, catching her before she could fall. Her skin was warm against mine, her pulse weak but steady, her breath ghosting across my throat. I cradled her close, my sword clattering forgotten to the floor. Relief slammed into me, so fierce it shook my bones. I pressed my forehead to hers, my voice raw. "You are my strength," I whispered, every vow I had ever sworn pale beside this one. "You are my queen. Before gods, before Pax, before the blood moon itself, I will never let you fall again." Her eyes opened, dark and luminous, her lips trembling in the ghost of a smile. "Then don't," she whispered back. A hush rippled through the chamber as my words carried, echoing across stone and silence. The surviving rebels lowered themselves to their knees, not to me, but to her. Even my council, men who had threatened to strip my throne only days ago, sank forward, foreheads pressed to the floor. "The first Luna reborn?" one elder breathed, awe breaking through his fear. Amaris trembled in my arms, and I tightened my hold, lifting her higher for all to see. "Look upon her," I thundered, my wolf's growl layered beneath my words. "This is your Luna, your queen, the one who steadied me when none of you believed I could stand. Kneel, because fate has chosen her, and through her, we rise." The hall erupted, not in rebellion, but in surrender. Knees bent, heads bowed, every pack bearing witness to the truth I had denied for too long. Amaris's hand curled against my chest, her power fading, her body fragile in my arms. But her gaze was steady, her spirit unbroken. The council had bent, the rebels had fallen, and all of it was hers. The blood moon lingered high, its crimson glow softened now by silver light spilling across the ruined hall. Silence stretched as I lifted the crown, its weight heavy with blood, legacy, and fate. Amaris knelt before me, her hair loose around her shoulders, her skin still marked with the scars of chains. But her eyes, gods, her eyes, burned with power, with courage, with the strength of 1,000 lifetimes. My hands did not tremble as I placed the crown upon her head. "Rise," I said, my voice carrying through the chamber, my wolf steady as stone. "Rise, Amaris, my Luna, my queen." She rose, slow and regal, the light of the first Luna blazing in her veins. Around us, the packs bowed lower, the hall bending to her. No one mocked her now. No one dared. Later, when the smoke had cleared and music trembled back into the air, I stood at the edge of the hall and watched her. Amaris moved through the gathering like moonlight itself, her body swaying to the rhythm of pipes and drums. Not the cruel dance of humiliation forced upon her that night, but a dance of freedom, of triumph. Every step was a declaration. I am no longer shadow. I am queen. My chest tightened, not with pain but with awe. The fractured beast inside me, the wolf that had raged and broken me, lay at peace. She had steadied him, steadied me, and where I once feared weakness, I had found salvation. I crossed the floor to her, taking her hand. She smiled up at me, a quiet fire in her gaze, and I pulled her close, my lips brushing her ear. "They mocked you once," I whispered, the music swelling around us, the hall echoing with devotion instead of scorn. "Now, you are my eternity." Her fingers tightened around mine, her crown gleaming in the moonlight. And as we moved together beneath the blood moon, I knew the truth. I had been a ruthless king, fractured and cursed. Now I was hers, whole, devoted, forever.